05 Danger Ranger. I gotta put one of these in here. His transmission's been screwing up for about the last 2 years. It finally puked on him. The only thing that works on it is second gear. So, cancer. Yummy. Alright, I'm doing this. First thing you gotta do, disconnect the negative terminal because you gotta take the starter out. I'm gonna start this show off by draining the fluid. I'm just gonna loosen these up a little bit. So I'll just let that go for a while until it feels like not making a mess. I got a really big drain pan too. I went to Maynard's and I just got a mixing tub for concrete. You go to a parts store and you get a big pan for transmissions, they want way too much money for them. I'm really curious to see what's inside this pan. Yeah, usually when a transmission stops working, there's a bunch of particles and junk in the pan. The fluid looks really good, and I guess it's just Ford junk. 10 millimeter on this filter. I'm going to take it off for fun. Okay, I'm going to put this back up here now. I'll just put like 4 bolts in here, hold this in. I'm going to take off this drive shaft. These bolts, they're 12.12 millimeters. I'm going to use an impact, and I got a wobble extension, a little one. Take off this slip yoke. Now this cross member and the exhaust I got to take off. For right now, I'm just going to try to figure out a way to strap this transmission, the tail. I'm going to strap it up so I can take this stuff off. There. That shouldn't be a problem. Now I can take this cross member off. There's 6 13 millimeters on the frame. Then there's 2 18 millimeters on the transmission mount. Now there's 2 oxygen sensors I got to unplug. There's one right there. These are post-cat sensors. There's one over here. This one here. And then there's 2 more way the heck up there on each side. The pre-cat sensors. I could probably get them from under the wheel well too, right there maybe. Oh yeah, I'll get them from there. That one. Yeah, the other one I can get from under the wheel well right here too. There it is right there. Oh, I got these bolts here. They're kind of jacked. I got a 20 millimeter here. It's probably a standard bolt or something. Now for these I got a deep swivel socket. You might be able to get away with using something else. On a 15 millimeter. 3 13 millimeters on these starter bolts. I just strapped it up with a bungee cord, the starter, just to make sure it's not hanging on the wires. So I got an inspection cover on the right side or the driver's side of this bell housing I'm going to take off. They're 8 millimeters. This way I can turn the engine over and I can get at them Ford nuts. Ford's kind of stupid about this. They use nuts instead of bolts, and there's no access down here, so if they fall down in the bell housing, you're pretty much screwed because there's no hole down here to get at them. So you got to be really careful not to drop them things down when you put them back in, and you got to line up the torque converter with the flywheel while you put the transmission in the car, which is really, really stupid. I mean, they should have used bolts. I don't know why Ford does this. They've been doing it forever, and I think they're just idiots for doing it. I got a really short extension on the harmonic balancer bolt. a short extension and a 13 millimeter, so I can crank this engine over. These are probably standard 9/16, so that's what I'm using. A 14 millimeter might work just the same. Now for this stuff, I got like 4 connectors and this shift cable I got to take off. And this cable just pops right off that easy. And there's a clip for safety here. Pull that out, and you can push these little tabs in on the top and the bottom, and it should come out. And this connector, there's a little stainless steel safety connector on here, and you need to pull up on it. Pull it back like that, and this thing should just come right out like so. This is a transmission vent tube. It goes up there and turns around on itself and goes into a hose down here. I gotta disconnect it because the wire loom is underneath it. This is a 13 millimeters. I got an oxygen sensor wire over here I gotta get off. It's all stuck on a bracket. I'm just going to ever so slowly drop this down. Make sure nothing gets all crunched up there. Ooh, what was that? I think the fan hit this down. Yeah, it did. It didn't break or anything though, so I don't have to buy one of those. Yeah, the oil pan's resting on the A-frame, so it's fairly safe, just like that. I'm going to get these transmission lines next. Surprisingly enough, nothing dripped out of them. There's a 13 millimeter on the side of this block. For this, there's a bracket for the transmission line I'm going to take off. I'm going to bungee cord these out of my way too. The only other thing I have hanging on here that I got to deal with is the dipstick tube. I'm going to try to get this is just a 2-piece deal. I'm going to try to get the second piece out. Hope this works. There it goes. Junk. This is actually press fit, and it's not supposed to come out, but this other end won't, so that's what I had to do. Well, this thing wouldn't come apart in the vehicle, so now I got to try to separate this because this tube is in the transmission that I got, which it's supposed to be. Holy crap. Rusty, crusty. I'll probably end up replacing that O-ring. I got 5 more of these Bellhousing bolts to take off. They're all 15 millimeter. I'm going to leave one of them. Yeah, it looks like the one on the right side I'll be leaving, I think. Alright, I got all the Bellhousing bolts off. Now I just need to pry this transmission away from the engine and hope the torque converter goes with it. Like that. This truck is really special, and special trucks require special attention. These are 17 millimeters. I'm going to put a rear main seal in this. This might be leaking a little bit, so it's time to do it. You just got to try not to score up the crankshaft when you get this out of here. So I'm just gonna, ooh. There it goes. Don't want to put too much pressure on that oil pan either, it's kind of goofy. So I'm going to hit this with some brake cleaner now. Wipe it down. That was a regular seal I took out of there. Some of these seals are PTFE. That's what I'm putting in it. These PTFE seals, you want to leave them bone dry. You don't want to lubricate them. And it's got this little plastic insert on it. You just stick it over the crankshaft and push this thing in. See? Now I got my ever so fancy steel installer. It's just a 4-inch cap from the hardware store. And anytime you buy something from the hardware store for a seal, you want to make sure that it'll hit the outside edge of the seal. You don't want to get something that's small enough to hit on the inside, because the outside is where all the structure is. If you get something that's too small, it'll just crush it in, and that's not good. You'll end up buying a new one. So this thing is it's the perfect size. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's nice and flush all the way around. There's a little notch here, and on this ring there's a notch there, so you line up these notches together. And then if you look at the back side, I can see an impression where there's a hole, so that goes down that way. These should get torqued to right around 60 to 64 foot-pounds. And after you do that too, you got to make sure that one of these bolt holes line up with this hole back here, because you got to line the new torque converter up with these the holes. He's getting a new rear seal and front seal for this too. Get a little brake cleaner for this. This is just a plain metal seal. So what I like to use is this stuff. This works really good for this. The brown nasty goo. You just want a little bit. You don't need to get carried away. And there's a hole in this too. That faces down. So when it leaks, it's got a place to go, which is kind of, I don't know why the heck they do that. I just found a chunk of tailpipe that's going to work for this. Yeah, this factory seal, it's of a little better quality. It's actually rubber. So if you get a more expensive rubber seal, you don't need to put anything on it. Take this thing out. These come out pretty easy. There's rubber on here, so I don't need to use sealant. I should be able to just drop this on, and it got an issue with this junkyard junk. They gave it to me like this. This shaft is out too far. It's at 1 3/4 inches. I can't get the torque converter all the way in. These are 18 millimeter. I got to get all these bolts off of here. There's little O-rings on here. You got to make sure them don't fall off. Yeah, this thing wasn't in all the way. There. Okay, yeah, if these needle bearings fall out, you can cry. You got that plastic washer there. There's a couple grooves on it, and they got to fall in the grooves, so you can't screw that up either. Oh, fell right in. Yeah, you want to make sure you got a big rubber O-ring on the outside. You want to make sure that's in place. I'm going to torque them all at 35 pounds, see what the first one feels like. Probably go a little more, but I'm not going to. Yeah, now the shaft's in about 3/4 inch, so it went in an extra inch. So you'll feel it click in 3 times. Then you're going to want to get a straight edge and measure it. And it's in about a 1/2 inch on the inside here. That's about what it looks like, about a 1/2 inch. So that's right as rain. This thing's ready to go in. Junk. I'm going to jack this transmission up, and I got to line up those studs to the holes on the flywheel. You can just stick your hand in the starter hole so you can turn this. Looks like I got them lined up pretty close. Now I just got to line this up nice and perfect. I got it in there though. See, it's all lined up. That side's barely in. So now I just got to try to square this thing up and push it all the way in. Here's how I deal with asshole on these torque converter bolts. I put some jute or dum-dum on the inside of I got a little Craftsman 14mm swivel socket on a 1/4 inch drive. And I put the nut in there. That way it doesn't fall out. It stays in there real good. I'm on the starter side here. I'll just stick this in here and start it. You use your fingers on this, and chances are that sucker's going to go right where you don't want it to, and it'll fall out and go down here, and then you got to fish them out or take the transmission back out. Really gas Ford crap. Then I just crank the thing over, and when I see one over here, I tighten it up with my impact. Okay, bam, money. I saved you from the rest of the entirely lame Ford drama. Now I just gotta hope this junk works. Okay, bye.